Hello all, this is the Idaho, and this 7Brief is all about what happens when you let wolves into the sheepfold. For those new to the channel, 7Brief is where we'll bring you the latest political news and information that impacts the residents of Bonner County, Idaho. We'll also share ways you can get involved and help preserve and recover freedom, liberty, and limited government in North Idaho. Today's scripture is from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. It's Matthew 7, verses 15 through 20. Beware the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Grapes are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor figs from thistles, are they? So every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then you will know them by their fruits. Although Jesus is talking about spiritual elders, I think you're going to see how this applies to the local political situation as well. To provide some context for our current political situation, we'll first look back at the last 5 presidential elections. These are a good place to look if you want to know the ratio of conservative to liberal voters. It's because everyone tends to know where the presidential candidates come down on the issues. In 2004, we had the Bush-Kerry election, with 1.6 Republican votes for each Democrat vote with 92% turnout. 2008, McCain-Obama had 1.4 Republicans for each Democrat with 85% turnout. 2012, 1.8 with 78% turnout. 2016, Trump-Hillary had 2.3 Republicans for each Democrat with 86% turnout. And 2020 had 2.2 Republican votes for each Democrat vote, with a 95% turnout. So as of the last general election in Bonner County, we've now reached the glorious point where for each liberal voter, we're able to get 2 conservative voters to the polls. So in Bonner County, when a liberal shows up to the polls, wants to impose DEI, transgender brainwashing in the schools, and doesn't understand that tax dollars just don't grow on trees, we're able to bring 2 conservatives to the party. Results often very gratifying. As you can guess, this can be frustrating for the liberals. Here's the landscape they face. So at the 2020 presidential election, with 95% registered voter turnout, there was 2.2 conservatives for each liberal vote. And any down ballot candidates with an R win. But what about the primary? Only 30% turnout on average. And so if only 30% of the conservative voters show up, it only takes 60 to 70% of liberals to win, or fewer when you can fool a few conservatives. So liberals desperately want this to be the new California, and it's clear that the large majority of our citizens here in Bonner County reject that nightmare. This means they have to come up with a plan, and this plan doesn't include being honest about what they're trying to get implemented. Unfortunately, in Idaho, they've been using this effectively for quite a while. So one would hope that the liberals would take the hint that here in Idaho, we don't want the failed policies they're selling. We don't want to become like the failed state of the People's Republic of California. We don't want to be like Oregon or Washington. There are many options for them if they want to go live under the policies they promote. But no, they won't stop until everyone's subjected to their bad ideas. Their plan calls for planting their candidates into the Republican primary. If they can win the Republican primary, candidate will be on the general election ballot on the winning side of the ticket. So again, just to review the Democrat socialist strategy, alternatives can't exist. It makes them look bad. Look at the Berlin Wall. Anyone can see the messages when people are willing to die to escape socialism. Anyone can see the difference between Democrat-run cities and conservative areas of the country. So when you have an area like North Idaho, it starts to kick the rhinos out of the party and local government. The workers unite and bring in funds to support policies and candidates that are on their side. Remember that their entire strategy is based on deceit. Being honest about their agenda would mean they would have a different party affiliation on the ticket. They're going to try to trick a portion of the Republican primary voters into selecting them for the party nomination. They have to appear to have Republican values. They're going to create false images of themselves as true conservative choice, or common sense alternatives, or moderates. And they'll paint the opposition as extremists. And they'll depend on the liberal media to help them conceal the truth. They'll depend on Democrat apparatus to organize their advertising and social media campaigns, and also to get Democrat voters to switch affiliation and vote in the Republican primary. They'll depend on genuine Republican alternatives to split the conservative vote. They'll depend on Republican voters being too busy to participate in the primary because they're employed and paying taxes, which will prevent the large voting bloc of conservative Republicans from coming to the primary with the same force they come to the general election. So, going back to the scripture of the day, we're taught how to spot a fake. We're to look at their fruit. This means we ignore what's coming out of their mouth or their advertising campaigns, and we look at their actions and the results of their actions. So now we're going to run through a little exercise. I've been driving around and seeing a lot of these May Matters signs. Are nice and shiny. Let's see what's going on with that. They drop you on the Jim Woodward website. So not only does he have signs to hang off of cranes, but we've got all the May Matters signs as well. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's see what else we got down here. Pre-register to vote. Change party affiliation. Oh, everyone relax though. We're going to help you who are unaffiliated become Republican. Not Democrats switching to Republican. This is just the unaffiliated. Okay, great. Oh, feels so much better. All right, well, we're going to dig into this a little more, and I'm going to show you a tool that can help that. So the Idaho Freedom Foundation website has these indices. Let's see the freedom metric. So this is just going to tell you what they are using to establish their freedom index rating. So they ask these questions about all the bills. Does it create, expand, or enlarge an agency? Does it transfer a function of the private sector to the government? Give the government any new, additional, expanded power? Increase barriers to entry to market? I'll just kind of scroll down quickly here, just so you can see. Please go by, visit, take a look at their criteria that they're using to rate these bills. Get yourself informed. You can see if you agree with these or not. And then we're going to go over to the bill analysis, and you can see there's a score next to it. And so this one's a -5. You can go through and see their analysis. They'll explain why they gave it the rating they did. So it's saying a rating of -5, and then you can see here's one of their criteria, got a -1 point that it failed. Violated another criteria, another -point. Violated another criteria, -point, -point, -point. So they'll explain the criteria, and then they explain why it failed or met the criteria that they're using to evaluate. And that's how they get a score for each bill. Now we're going to go over and do a little research on Jim Woodward. So if you go up to indexes and scorecards, you're now going to be looking at lawmakers. And we can scroll down to the full leaderboard with everyone in it. We can go back a few years to the last time Jim Woodward was in office. Oh, there he is. Let's see. So what you'll see is there is a score here. Looks like he received F ratings, and that is not the F for freedom. You can click on the candidate. These scores kind of speak for themselves. You can go down, you can see the years they were in office. So you can see the 4 years Jim was in office. You can see what happened to his freedom rating during that time. Education only started in 2022 as a rating. Spending started in 2019, and you can see the spending rating going down there too. At the bottom's a tool. You can click and view the voting record. So you'll be able to see how they voted on each bill. So you can go in and look at a bill that you specifically have an interest in and see how they voted on it. So here's the listing of bills. And you can see right here is Jim's votes. So that would be how you could go and dig in specifically to how your representatives are voting on the bills. So let's go take a look over at Scott Herndon. This is the person Jim's running against. So we're going to go to the scorecards, scroll down, see everyone. Scott's currently in office. He's the incumbent. And as we go down, you can see the ratings for 2024. And the lifetime scores as well. So there you go. There's two different candidates. Come in here and see who respects your tax dollars and who does not. So hopefully that was interesting for you to see a tool that allows you to dig into how your representatives vote once they get to Boise and are being wined and dined by all the special interest groups. Their vote is the fruit that never lies about their values. Looking at their vote allows you to cut through all the advertisements and the polished speeches. So this particular race for District 1 Senator is a very clear example. 2 years ago, District 1 voters told Jim Woodward that they were fed up with his performance down in Boise. They were done with his inability to exercise restraint with our tax dollars. Conservatives went out and found a candidate to replace him. For 2 years, Scott Herndon has spoken very clearly with his votes. He said he isn't going to be bought by special interests and he's going to do what he promised to do. If any of you have followed what Scott's been doing down in Boise, you'll know we need to get out in the primary and defend him against this Democrat-funded attack from Jim. Also in District 1, for the 1A representative, we have a clear rhino that needs to be removed in the May primary. Mark Sauter has also earned the shameful distinction of earning an F rating in all 3 score indices over the last 2 years. Not surprised that there was an expensive mailer that went out trying to claim that Jim Woodward and Mark Sauter are serious conservatives offering real service, not lip service. Thankfully, we can cut through the propaganda by simply looking at the voting record. There it is. So you might be asking if there's a conservative option to replace Mark Sauter. Well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is that conservatives have been willing to step up and run against Mark in this primary. The bad news is that there's more than one. The first candidate's Jane Sauter, and please make careful note she's not related to Mark Sauter, but there she is. Jane's a very strong conservative alternative. And then also there's Spencer Hutchings, who's also very conservative. Problem's this: we may have a 2-to-1 conservative to liberal voting ratio, but when 2 conservatives vote for different conservative options and the liberals all pile in behind their candidate and also pull in with their propaganda apparatus a few more of the conservative votes out there, you end up with a very close race. So in an attempt to prevent this fiasco, the Bonner County Republican Central Committee, which is made up of your local precinct representatives, interviewed both Jane and Spencer, and they chose to endorse Jane. If we're to have any hope of defeating the incumbent liberal rhino, Mark, we need to consolidate behind only one of the 2 conservative candidates. And I hope you also will consider supporting Jane as well. So what's the lesson? May 21st does matter. May 21st needs to be treated as important as the November 5th general election. Democrats are trying to swamp the Republican primary to get their candidates on the Republican ticket, or in some cases, keep them there. And so the time to defeat the Democrat socialist agenda is May 21st. We all need to show up. If you watch for election signs, also, you'll start to see 2 general groups. That is the true Republican-Democrat division. It's just that it's all happening right now in the May primary. So be sure to go out there, cut through the lies, examine the fruit, look at the voting records for these candidates. If candidates new and there's no voting record to examine, make note of the other campaign signs they normally show up with. Talk to your friends. They need to get out for this primary. Get involved, volunteer with a campaign, and also keep praying. And that's it. You made it all the way through the very first 7Brief. Thank you for sticking with me through it. I know it's been rough at times. I'm new to this. Audio probably stank. I'm sure I'll hear all about it in the comments section, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you all again. God bless.